If you think life is tough today, with all the stress of bills, deadlines, and the occasional Wi-Fi outage, take a deep breath, because things could be so much worse. Life today may have its difficulties, but compared to our ancient ancestors, we exist in a world of extraordinary comfort. Imagine a time when survival was never guaranteed, where every day was a battle against nature, and childhood mortality was alarmingly high. This was the harsh reality of Homo habilis, a species that endured some of the most unforgiving conditions in human history. These early humans faced predators, starvation, and a daily fight for shelter. Their resilience, however, laid the groundwork for human survival and evolution. Today, we humans, Homo sapiens, have reached unprecedented levels of technology, allowing us to live in climate-controlled homes, order food with a tap, and enjoy an average lifespan of 73 years. We benefit from security, technology, and stability. But the path to this existence was forged through centuries of struggle. Among the earliest members of our lineage, Homo habilis faced an environment that tested their ability to endure. In a world without antibiotics, electricity, or even basic clothing, survival required constant adaptation and unyielding determination. Homo habilis lived between 2.3 and 1.65 million years ago in an unpredictable and perilous world. They coexisted with formidable predators, endured periods of food scarcity, and had little protection against the elements. Every moment was a fight for survival. Their name, meaning handy man, reflects their early use of primitive tools, a significant step forward for early humans navigating a dangerous and competitive environment. Scientific findings show Homo habilis lived for approximately 12 years on average throughout human history. Their lifespan reached only 12 years, which was insufficient to master basic safety rules. The majority of these individuals did not survive beyond childhood because they died from diseases along with predation and injuries. Survival proved to be an everlasting struggle in their lives. Those who lived beyond adolescence were rare, often bearing scars from a lifetime of narrow escapes and injuries. The absence of many infant skeletons in the fossil record indicates an extremely high infant mortality rate. The likelihood of reaching childhood was minimal, making survival an uncertain prospect from birth. Mothers often face the heartache of losing multiple offspring, with only a small fraction surviving long enough to contribute to the next generation. The odds were stacked against Homo habilis. Their small stature, fragile bodies, and lack of effective defenses left them vulnerable in a world filled with threats. Unlike modern humans, they lacked both the speed to outrun predators and the strength to fight back effectively. Every waking moment required vigilance. Standing at just 1.2 meters or 4 feet tall, Homo habilis had a slight build that put them at a distinct disadvantage. In a landscape dominated by powerful predators, they had few means of protecting themselves. Their diminutive size made them easy targets for apex hunters. Unlike later human species, their bones were lightweight and delicate. Even minor injuries could become fatal in an era without medical intervention. Broken limbs or deep wounds often meant a slow, painful death due to infection or immobility. To evade predators, Homo habilis likely sought refuge in trees. Fossil evidence, particularly the curved phalanges and shoulder joint morphology found in specimens from sites like Olduvai Gorge, suggests that these early humans retained some arboreal adaptations. However, this adaptation came with its own set of risks. Climbing provided a temporary escape, but was far from a foolproof strategy for survival. Their skeletal structure suggests some climbing ability, but they were not well adapted for life in the trees. This left them caught between two worlds, neither fully terrestrial nor entirely arboreal. Their limited agility made them vulnerable both on the ground and among the branches. Fossil evidence from modern primates indicates that falls from trees are a leading cause of injury and death. For Homo habilis, a single misstep could mean a fatal outcome. They were small, physically weak, and had limited adaptability. Homo habilis faced a constant threat in a world that demanded strength and resilience. Their survival relied heavily on intelligence, problem-solving, and the ability to outthink rather than overpower threats. The struggle for food defined their existence. Meat was a crucial part of their diet, but acquiring it presented significant challenges. In times of scarcity, they likely consumed roots, berries, and whatever else they could find, edible or not. The dental structure of the molars of Homo habilis suggests they were capable of consuming meat and tough vegetation. However, securing a reliable food source was an ongoing struggle. Food was hard to come by. Even the struggle for it came at the cost of injuries, from scratches to fatal scars, and sometimes even death. Without weapons, speed, or strength, Homo habilis could not hunt effectively. Instead, they relied on scavenging carcasses left behind by apex predators. Picking over bones for scraps was a dangerous but necessary part of survival. Archaeological findings, along with fossil discoveries, show Homo habilis did not possess enough physical capabilities to actively hunt. The bones discovered at Olduvai Gorge and Kubi Fora demonstrate that Homo habilis had a lightweight skeleton, with few muscle insertion points, which indicates their lack of ability to hunt big prey effectively. Scavenging required either strength, speed, or intelligence. Homo habilis possessed only a rudimentary level of the latter, making survival through scavenging an uncertain endeavor. The African territory where these early humans lived, mainly in Olduvai Gorge and Kubi Fora regions of Tanzania and Kenya, was primarily controlled by dangerous predators. The fossil discoveries at these sites exhibit saber-toothed cat remains, including Megantereon, Dinophilis, and Homotherium, which proves these apex predators coexisted with early hominins in savanna and woodlands. The area was also home to dangerous large birds of prey. Homo habilis lacked any major defensive capabilities, which made them vulnerable to threats. The demanding conditions constantly reminded Homo habilis of their exposure to danger. The act of scavenging exposed the individuals to dangerous circumstances. Dominant predators had the power to reappear and reclaim their kill, which left Homo habilis exposed because of their inferior strength and aggressive capabilities. The need to survive required both bravery and a clear perception of everything happening in the environment. The prehistoric East African Rift Valley waterways presented equal risks to Homo habilis during their foraging activities, because fossil evidence shows that enormous crocodiles hunted prey near the shoreline. Homo habilis occupied one of the most treacherous ecosystems in history. They were neither apex predators nor skilled escape artists. Their daily existence was an unrelenting struggle to avoid becoming the next victim in the food chain. The balance between life and death was razor-thin. Homo habilis faced an unforgiving world where survival was a constant battle. They weren't just occasional prey. They lived in what could only be described as a prehistoric buffet for apex predators. Their species was the main course. Every shadow and rustle of leaves signaled lingering danger. The East African Rift Valley locations where Homo habilis fossils were discovered show evidence that these early humans adapted to seasonal changes through regular migration patterns. The beginning of the wet season brought rain to refill water sources, which activated the environment, while Homo habilis moved downstream to both fertile plains and lower river basins for food and water. During the dry season, Homo habilis moved to drier, elevated areas that were devoid of water but provided safety from flooding and essential materials needed for tool production. The analysis of fossilized tooth enamel, along with stratigraphic research at Olduvai Gorge and Kubi Fora, shows convincing evidence about seasonal climate shifts, which demonstrates dietary and movement patterns that correspond to environmental changes. The cyclical journey showed both Homo habilis' adaptability, together with their calculated risk-taking throughout every migration, as survival depended on selecting the right moment to move in risky environments. The constant danger from apex predators remained an ominous threat while these groups traveled through harsh environments. One of their most formidable threats was the Megantereon, a jaguar-sized saber-toothed cat that prowled Africa throughout Homo habilis' existence. At first glance, it might seem like just another big cat, but Megantereon was anything but ordinary. Built with jaguar-like agility, lion-sized limbs, and deadly claws, it was a biological tank designed for one thing: efficient and ruthless predation. Its stealth and power made it a nightmare for any creature it stalked. What made Megantereon truly terrifying was its serrated, dagger-like canine, perfectly adapted to slicing through flesh with minimal effort. A single bite to the throat, and its victim would lose consciousness in mere seconds. However, not all kills were quick. Fossil evidence tells an even grislier story. A Homo habilis skull was discovered with puncture marks on the back of the head. The angle of these wounds suggests that Megantereon did not attack from behind. It clamped its jaws over the entire skull from the front, suffocating its victim into unconsciousness before delivering the fatal blow. Such brutal encounters were a grim reminder of the fragility of life for Homo habilis. And Megantereon wasn't alone. Other savage predators, such as Dinophilis, shared the same hunting grounds. But the absolute nightmare fuel came from even larger felines: Homotherium and Machairodus, both relentless killers in their own right. Machairodus was among the largest cats ever to walk the earth. Weighing close to 900 pounds, 405 kilograms, this predator dwarfed even modern lions. If a regular lion can take down a grown man with ease, imagine what a polar bear-sized saber-toothed killer could do to a 4-foot-tall, 80-pound Homo habilis. One swipe of its enormous paws, and the fight was over before it even began. The knife-toothed cats possessed fearsome qualities, but they weren't the only predators lurking in the darkness. During the Pleistocene era, scientists discovered Pachycrocuta brevirostris, which was a mega-sized hyena that exceeded the size of a lioness with a legendary biting power. This powerful predator had the strength to crush bones into fragments, which prevented any escape possibility for humans. But Pachycrocuta wasn't alone. A second species, Chasmoporthetes, posed an entirely different threat. Unlike its bulkier cousin, this species was built for speed. With long, cheetah-like legs, it could outrun its prey with terrifying efficiency, ensuring that even the most agile Homo habilis stood little chance. If encountering a single prehistoric hyena was dangerous, facing an entire pack was a death sentence. These predators operated with a highly coordinated pack mentality, ensuring that their prey had no escape. For Homo habilis, the world was an all-you-can-eat buffet, and they were the special of the day. But threats weren't limited to the ground. The treetops concealed another deadly predator, the ancient leopard. Unlike the saber-toothed cats that relied on brute force, leopards used stealth and precision, ambushing their prey and dragging them into the trees to be devoured at leisure. Fossilized remains confirm this terrifying fate. Early human skulls bear the unmistakable puncture marks of leopard fangs, a grim reminder of how quickly a Homo habilis could go from hunter to hunted. If land and trees weren't safe, perhaps the water offered some refuge. But it wasn't the case. The rivers of ancient Africa were home to monstrous crocodiles, behemoths far larger and deadlier than their modern descendants. Unlike today's Nile crocodiles, these ancient giants could reach lengths exceeding 20 feet. Detailed analyses of jaw fragments and vertebral remains from sites such as the Turkana Basin reveal a robust skeletal structure and enhanced musculature. Their powerful jaws could snap a human in half in an instant, making any attempt at fishing or water gathering a lethal gamble. And yet, Homo habilis had little choice. Without rods, nets, or spears, they relied on rudimentary hand fishing techniques, wading into the water, completely unaware of the prehistoric monsters waiting just beneath the surface. Every moment of their existence was defined by the threat of sudden, brutal death. If it wasn't a saber-toothed cat ambushing from the grass, it was a leopard pouncing from above, or a crocodile waiting to pull them under. And the worst part? Homo habilis wasn't built for combat. Unlike their predators, they lacked natural weapons. No sharp claws, no powerful fangs. They were small, slow, and physically weak. If survival was a war zone, they had shown up armed with nothing more than a rock and a prayer. Unlike later hominins, Homo habilis had no spears, no bows, and no fire-hardened weapons. Their best defense was a crudely chipped stone. The most basic survival tools ever used by human beings were known as Oldowan tools during that time. The archaeological sites of Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania and Kubifora in Kenya first uncovered these basic stone tools, which scientists named Oldowan tools. Stone tools that were created 2.6 million years ago serve as the first documented stone tool technology within human chronology. Scientific research through experimental replication and microware studies revealed that basic sharp rocks functioned for processing plant material and cutting meat while breaking bones. A simple, sharp rock, barely better than a jagged piece of gravel, was their lifeline. With these basic tools, they could scrape meat from bones, crack open nuts, or hack at plants. But there were no advanced hunting techniques, no coordinated strategies, just brute force and blind luck. If a Homo habilis wanted food, they had two choices: scavenge whatever was left by a larger predator, or risk everything by getting dangerously close to an animal and hoping their primitive rock could deliver a fatal blow before it was too late. The diet of Homo habilis was nothing short of a nightmare. Each meal posed a risk. While fruits, tubers, and nuts were part of their diet, meat was the ultimate prize. Fossil evidence shows that these early humans primarily depended on scavenging for meat. However, successfully hunting an animal was a rare stroke of fortune. More often than not, their best chance at consuming meat came from scavenging whatever remained of another predator's kill. Scavenging might sound straightforward, find a carcass and eat. But the reality was far more dangerous. By the time Homo habilis found a dead animal, it was usually because a more powerful predator had already taken its fill and moved on. What remained were rotting scraps, often teeming with parasites and disease, as evidenced by the deteriorated state of remains recovered from the East African Rift Valley. Picture this: The sun-scorched body of an antelope lies before you, half devoured and reeking. Maggots writhe in its rotting flesh. The stench is enough to make a modern human wretch, yet hunger gnaws at you. Desperately, you use a dull stone to scrape off some flesh, swallowing it quickly, and hoping that whatever invisible dangers lurk within won't be your undoing. Securing even these meager scraps was no simple task. In the savannas of East Africa, scavenging was a communal challenge. Not only did Homo habilis compete with each other, but they also had to contend with other opportunistic feeders, hyenas, jackals, and vultures, who were always close by, ready to steal whatever food Homo habilis managed to claim. Every meal was a tense and dangerous affair. Fire, the transformative force in human history, was still out of reach for Homo habilis. Though it would one day elevate humans to the top of the food chain, for these early ancestors, the fire remained an untamed mystery. When fire appeared in the lives of Homo habilis, it was purely by chance, the result of natural events like lightning strikes or wildfires. Occasionally, they encountered fire in the form of lightning-struck trees. They lacked the knowledge to create fire themselves. They stumbled upon a burning tree, providing brief opportunities to cook food. But when the fire died out, so did their chance to harness it. Without controlled fire, there were no warm nights, no shared stories around a flickering flame, and no cooked meals. They endured raw meat and cold nights, their lives stark and unforgiving. Despite their many disadvantages, Homo habilis had one vital advantage: each other. They lived in small groups of perhaps 20 to 30 individuals, unlike solitary predators such as leopards. In a hostile world, isolation was a death sentence. Group members would likely share responsibilities such as scouting for food and warning each other of approaching dangers. However, maintaining cohesion in such a challenging environment required constant effort. Trust and cooperation were the foundations of their survival strategy. Group living offered some protection. More eyes meant a better chance of spotting threats. More hands improved the odds of successful scavenging and foraging. However, there was a downside: more mouths to feed. The group's survival hinged on finding enough resources to sustain everyone. When food was scarce, tensions likely rose, challenging even the strongest social bonds. Despite these challenges, sharing knowledge about danger zones and food sources created a rudimentary but crucial form of collective intelligence. Imagine the challenge of keeping a toddler safe in an environment where danger lurked behind every bush. Homo habilis mothers and older siblings faced this constant battle. Raising children requires relentless vigilance. There were no safe spaces, no lullabies, only the desperate hope that the little ones wouldn't wander into harm's way. The vulnerability of young ones often dictated the group's movements, forcing them to seek safer grounds, where threats from predators and environmental hazards might be lower. Carrying infants while foraging or fleeing was physically grueling. Homo habilis had no tools for carrying babies beyond their bare hands. Leaving them behind wasn't an option. Predators waited in every shadow, and starvation was a constant threat. The physical burden of childcare often fell on mothers and older siblings, who juggled this responsibility with finding food and maintaining group cohesion. This demanding dual role made survival even more precarious. To make the situation worse, illness and injury were also constant dangers. Without any form of medical care, survival depended on the group's willingness to care for injured members. A broken leg, an infection, or a severe fall could quickly become a life-and-death battle. Evidence from fossilized bones shows signs of injuries that healed poorly, or not at all, grim reminders of the harsh realities they faced. The group's ability to provide even basic care, such as protection or shared food, likely influenced whether an injured individual lived or died. Life for Homo habilis was a relentless struggle with no permanent shelters, no reliable food sources, and only crude stone tools for defense. They occupied a precarious position on the food chain, constantly evading predators while scavenging for scraps. Seasonal changes brought further hardships, from searing heat to bone-chilling cold, forcing them to adapt on the fly. Every day was a gamble, with survival hanging by a thread. Yet, against all odds, Homo habilis endured. For nearly 1 million years they persisted, paving the way for more advanced species. But survival came at a price. Scientific evidence demonstrates that early humans developed permanent psychological impacts during their constant stressful experiences, ongoing fear, and massive losses. Paleoanthropological research shows that social bonds between early human groups intensified through experiencing shared trauma, and so created their basic communal ties. The mental toll of constant fear and loss left lasting imprints on their behaviors and social structures. Over time, this emotional resilience became a critical survival tool. The average life expectancy for Homo habilis was just 20 to 30 years at best. Infant mortality rates were staggering over 50%. For every child born, there was a grim likelihood they wouldn't live long enough even to attempt scavenging or climbing a tree. Those who survived adolescence faced a landscape riddled with dangers, from disease to predation. Despite these challenges, their ability to persist in such hostile conditions speaks to their adaptability and tenacity. The high mortality rate meant that half of each generation was lost before they could contribute to the group's survival. Those who made it past infancy rarely lived to see their own children grow. Grief was a constant companion, reshaping social dynamics within groups. The repeated loss of young ones likely fostered a deep-rooted awareness of mortality, influencing how Homo habilis structured their lives, prioritized safety, and maintained their fragile communities. In a small, tightly knit group, every loss was deeply felt. The absence of a single individual weakened defenses, foraging efforts, and communal care. The emotional scars from these losses likely reinforced an enduring sense of caution and fear. Fear became an essential survival strategy. Hypervigilance was a necessity. The rustle of leaves, the snap of a twig, or the distant growl of a predator. Each sound could spell imminent danger. This ever-present fear shaped the very fabric of their existence, ensuring that Homo habilis remained watchful and wary in their fight to survive. Imagine trying to find rest in a world without walls, fire, or any sense of security. The nights were filled with a cacophony of unsettling sounds, predators prowling, the wind howling through the trees, and the occasional blood-curdling scream of a fallen prey. For Homo habilis, sleep was not a time for peace, but a vulnerable state fraught with danger. Paranoia became a crucial survival mechanism creeping through their nerves, hardwired into their brains over countless generations. The mind of Homo habilis, molded by this relentless need for awareness, evolved to expect the worst at all times. Hyper-awareness wasn't a mere inconvenience. It was a survival imperative. Those who failed to remain alert, or were slow to react often, did not live long enough to pass on their genes. This primal state of anxiety is deeply embedded in modern human psychology. The sense of apprehension that grips us today has its roots here, an evolutionary gift from our ancestors. While we can only speculate about the emotional lives of Homo habilis, it's not difficult to imagine the deep scars left by constant grief and trauma. The loss of children, siblings, and friends was likely a frequent and communal experience. The concept of counseling or processing trauma didn't exist. Life didn't pause for mourning. Survival demanded that they move forward. Emotional pain had to be suppressed or compartmentalized to ensure the group's continued survival. Emotional resilience became just as critical as physical strength. Extended grieving was not an option. It could jeopardize the entire group's survival. Those capable of managing or suppressing their grief likely had an edge in survival, leading to the evolution of behaviors that favored mental toughness. The real threat wasn't always the predator itself. It was the anticipation. That persistent dread, knowing that danger could strike at any moment, kept their senses on edge. Sometimes that dread proved justified. Living in small, tightly knit groups provided both advantages and challenges. On the one hand, communal living offered safety in numbers, more eyes to spot danger, and more hands to gather food. On the other hand, constant stress and frequent losses could strain relationships and test group cohesion. Disputes over resources, leadership, or survival strategies were inevitable. However, cooperation was essential for survival. Those unable to work together or who became isolated from the group faced almost certain death. Research on bones discovered at Olduvai Gorge shows evidence of healed fractures together with other injuries, which some experts believe point to interpersonal conflicts. The existence of bodily injuries and unequal tool distribution patterns shows that fights over scarce resources occurred repeatedly. Over time, these pressures likely contributed to the development of early social norms and conflict resolution strategies. Traits such as empathy, cooperation, and rudimentary communication would have conferred significant survival advantages. Fear, grief, and social bonding were not merely emotional responses. They became essential survival tools. Fear kept early humans alert. Grief reinforced the importance of protecting vulnerable members. Social bonding strengthened group cohesion and increased their chances of survival. These ancient emotional responses continue to shape modern humans. Although today's threats differ greatly, the survival mechanisms of Homo habilis persist within us. Anxiety, once a life-saving reaction to immediate danger, now manifests in response to everyday stressors. Grief, a communal experience vital for group survival, remains a profound part of the human condition. Modern frustrations with anxiety can be seen as an ironic legacy of our ancestors' survival tactics. Imagine telling Homo habilis that your biggest worry is an incomplete email response. They were far too busy dodging relentless beasts to care about inbox management. Even in the harshest environments, humans likely found ways to cope through humor. Dark humor may have served as a psychological release, helping group members bond and endure dangerous situations. Laughing in the face of adversity provided brief but meaningful emotional relief. The toll of constant stress wasn't just mental. It had profound physical consequences. Elevated stress hormone levels weaken immune systems, making Homo habilis more susceptible to disease. The physical damage caused by prolonged stress likely shortened their lifespans. Fossil evidence reveals the harsh realities of their existence. Many early human remains show signs of malnutrition, dental decay, and multiple traumatic injuries. Bone anomalies and scarring paint a vivid picture of a life marked by constant struggle. Despite these immense challenges, Homo habilis demonstrated remarkable resilience. Their ability to endure and adapt ensured their survival for hundreds of thousands of years. Despite living in a world seemingly designed to destroy them, Homo habilis, and later Homo erectus, did something extraordinary. They adapted. This period marked a critical turning point in human evolution, where necessity sparked innovation and sheer determination became a survival strategy. Throughout history, the ability to adapt has been the defining trait of humanity. If survival were a mere game of chance, early humans rewrote the very rules that governed it. Against all odds, they forged new paths, creating a legacy of resilience that would lay the foundation for modern civilization. The way early humans responded to these relentless pressures set the stage for some of the most significant achievements in human history. They developed tools to hunt, created cooperative strategies to ensure survival, and, most notably, harnessed the power of fire. A game-changing discovery that altered the course of humanity forever. Approximately 1 million years ago, Homo erectus became the first known species to control fire. Before this groundbreaking discovery, nights were long and filled with danger, as humans remained at the mercy of the elements and predatory creatures. However, with the ability to create and sustain fire, the darkness was no longer ruled by wild beasts alone. It marked a turning point in the fight for survival. Fire was more than just a source of warmth. It became a cornerstone of human progress. It offered safety from lurking predators, provided a communal gathering space, and revolutionized the way humans consumed food. Cooking not only improved the taste and texture of meals, but also made food easier to digest, unlocking vital nutrients that fueled brain development. This advancement gave humans an evolutionary edge over other species, paving the way for higher intelligence and problem-solving capabilities. Beyond its immediate benefits, fire significantly improved human health. Cooking food reduced exposure to harmful pathogens, minimizing the risk of illness. Additionally, the ability to soften plants and eliminate bacteria from raw meat expanded their dietary options. This shift in nourishment not only ensured survival, but also laid the groundwork for improved physical development and longevity. The night, once a perilous and uncertain time, became a space where humans could regroup, rest, and plan for the days ahead. Fire, in many ways, was humanity's first shield against nature's threats. The development of tools signified another leap forward in human evolution. From rudimentary stone implements to more refined hand axes, early humans gradually improved their ability to hunt, protect themselves, and navigate their environment. These tools were not just weapons, they were instruments of survival, enabling humans to carve out a place in an unforgiving world. By today's standards, a hand axe may seem primitive, but during its time, it was revolutionary. With sharp edges and a sturdy grip, it allowed humans to process meat more efficiently and provided an additional layer of defense against smaller predators. This simple yet effective tool played a crucial role in ensuring that humans could sustain themselves. Over time, tool-making became more sophisticated. Scrapers, knives, and primitive spears emerged, allowing for more effective hunting and resource utilization. These technological advancements didn't just make life easier, they made survival possible. Each new innovation represented a step toward greater control over their environment. The creation and refinement of tools also demonstrated the increasing cognitive abilities of early humans. Crafting tools required precision, planning, and problem-solving skills. The ability to break stones at the right angles and shape them into valuable implements reflected an advanced level of thinking, setting the grounds for future technological progress. Survival wasn't just about tools and fire. It was about people working together. Early humans developed complex social structures that emphasized cooperation. Hunting larger prey, defending against predators, and ensuring resource distribution required teamwork. Those who collaborated had a significantly higher chance of survival than those who attempted to go it alone. Sharing resources also became a key component of survival. Individuals who pooled their efforts and distributed food fairly strengthened their social bonds. These cooperative behaviors laid the groundwork for early human communities, where mutual support became a vital survival mechanism. To function effectively as a group, early humans needed a way to communicate. While they lacked formal language as we know it today, they likely relied on gestures, vocalizations, and rudimentary symbols to convey important information. These early forms of communication enabled them to coordinate hunting strategies and strengthen their social ties. The ability to work together, express emotions, and share knowledge created a social structure that would eventually evolve into the complex civilizations seen today. Cooperation and empathy became defining characteristics of the human species. As social structures became more complex, leadership emerged as a necessary component of survival. Groups required decision-makers to determine when to move between camps, where to find food, and how to respond to threats. Leadership was likely based on a combination of strength, wisdom, and the ability to inspire others. Over time, these early leadership structures evolved into the hierarchical systems that govern societies today. The hardships faced by early humans were relentless, but these very struggles shaped their resilience. This era of constant danger, scarcity, and uncertainty forged a tenacity that would one day allow humans to dominate the planet. It's easy to take modern conveniences for granted, but in moments of frustration, like when a phone battery dies, it's worth remembering the struggles of our ancestors. They didn't have time to worry about minor inconveniences. They were busy inventing teamwork to avoid being eaten by giant hyenas. Perspective is everything. Desperation was the fuel that drove innovation. Early humans didn't create tools, fire, and social structures for fun. They did it out of necessity. Every new development was born from the urgent need to survive in a hostile world. Each innovation brought immense benefits. Cooking reduced the risk of illness, fire allowed humans to inhabit colder regions, and better tools enabled more efficient hunting and self-defense. These advancements marked significant progress in humanity's evolutionary journey. Cooperation was more than a choice. It was a survival mechanism. The social bonds formed through teamwork and mutual aid became the foundation of early culture, shaping the way humans interacted with one another. One of the most critical cognitive shifts was the ability to think beyond the present moment. Early humans began storing food, crafting tools in advance, and anticipating seasonal changes. This newfound foresight was a game changer. Strategic thinking became a key advantage. The ability to plan ahead led to advancements in technology, the formation of larger societies, and even early artistic expression. With foresight came storytelling. Around fires, early humans likely shared survival tips and passed down knowledge. These stories became the first steps toward recorded history, ensuring that wisdom and experience could be transferred to future generations. Picture a group of early humans gathered around a flickering fire after a long and successful hunt. This was not just a moment of rest, it was a moment of reflection. For the first time, they had the luxury to share stories, to exchange knowledge, and to experience laughter together. The fire provided more than warmth. It offered connection. This communal setting played a significant role in shaping human culture. The firelight became a space for learning, bonding, and transferring essential survival knowledge from one generation to the next. Anthropologists suggest that fire extended social hours, fostering deeper communication and reinforcing group bonding. Around these flames, the foundations of society were laid. These innovations allowed them to reshape their environment and secure their future. They were not just victims of their surroundings, they were architects of their own destiny. The brutal world they inhabited did not break them. It molded them into relentless pioneers. This was merely the beginning of humanity's journey toward global dominance. Equipped with newfound skills and intelligence, they were prepared to take their next evolutionary steps. However, survival came at a price. The trauma endured during these perilous years became ingrained in their very DNA. Those who withstood the unrelenting challenges, facing starvation, predators, and unforgiving environments, passed down the instincts forged through hardship. Their legacy now lives on, even in the modern world, as we flinch at harmless creatures or panic when our phone battery dips below 1%. The fears that kept early humans alive still reside in us today. Why does the darkness make us uneasy? Why does the sight of a snake trigger an instinctive reaction? These are echoes from a time when such dangers meant life or death. The wisdom of generations past whispers within us, cautioning us to stay alert. Evolution does not erase, it repurposes. Our ancient survival instincts have adapted to new circumstances. The anxiety of meeting deadlines, the nervousness before a big decision, these are modern expressions of the same alertness that once detected movement in tall grass. The part of our brain responsible for survival remains hyper-aware, forever preparing for battle. Our ancestors defended themselves against feline beasts. Today, we experience palpitations before answering a phone call. But make no mistake, our ability to fear is matched only by our ability to overcome. The very instincts that once made us cower also made us conquer. Fear kept us alive long enough to innovate, to adapt, and to press forward. Their struggles led to progress, and their sacrifices ensured our existence. And yet, we now throw tantrums when our coffee order is slightly wrong. The dangers our ancestors faced have changed, but our drive to survive remains intact. Instead of wildlife threat, we now battle existential crises, economic instability, and the pressures of modern life. The struggles differ, but the will to endure persists. The perseverance of those who came before us is woven into our very fabric. Every towering structure, every technological breakthrough, and every comfort we enjoy today is built upon the sacrifices of our ancestors. Their lives, though short and brutal, paved the way for the civilization we now take for granted. Scientific research in epigenetics suggests that trauma can leave imprints on our DNA, influencing future generations. A study published in Nature Neuroscience demonstrated that mice conditioned to fear a specific scent passed this fear onto their offspring, suggesting that the experiences of our forebears continue to shape us in ways we do not yet fully understand. Today, many of our primal instincts are triggered by non-lethal situations. The stress of public speaking, the panic of an impending deadline. These are modern reflections of ancient survival mechanisms. Our brains, once attuned to immediate physical dangers, now struggle with abstract threats, leading to anxiety and chronic stress. Ironically, the comforts we have created to escape hardship may be contributing to our struggles. The lack of immediate survival threats has led to new forms of distress, such as depression and anxiety. In removing physical hardship, we may have unintentionally neglected the psychological resilience that challenges once built within us. By examining the connection between our ancestral past and modern behaviors, we gain valuable insight into our emotions and reactions. Recognizing that some of our anxieties are evolutionary remnants, allowing us to navigate life with greater awareness. Honoring this heritage while adapting to contemporary challenges is the key to balancing instinct and reason. So, the next time you find yourself complaining about a minor inconvenience or feeling overwhelmed by trivial frustrations, remember this: your ancestors endured far worse. They faced famine, deadly monsters, and unrelenting environments. They survived against all odds so that you could exist today. They battled nature's cruelties while you nearly had a breakdown over a 5-minute delay in your food delivery. Perspective is everything.